Wayaki's dreams and vision. How could he know unless he entered those regions of the heart where doubts and fears struggled in the darkness, where you suddenly lost sight of your hopes and success, shaken to the roots as you woke up at night, or even as you walked along the paths of the country? As Waiyaki lay in bed 2 days later, he felt exhausted in body and spirit. He felt as if something evil lurked a few feet behind him, following the path of his success, ready to pounce on him and reduce him to nothing. This was not fear or even despair. It was just a feeling that hovered around him, making him wary. And yet, he clung to his vision and let its light illuminate the path ahead. Ever since the burning of the heart a few days before he left for Syriana, he had been thinking more and more intensely about his people. He looked forward to the day early next year when the parents would gather again, when he would tell them all to unite. But unite for what? To Waiyaki, the white man's education was an instrument of enlightenment and advance if only it could be used well. He still remembered his father's words that long time ago when they stood on a hill, the whole country before them. Learn all the wisdom and all the secrets of the white man. Do not follow his vices. Was this then his mission to the Regis? He would tell the people. Indeed, he had already told them the children must learn. A man shall rise and save the people in their hour of need. Was he that savior? Was he the promised one, or had Shege's mind been roving? How would he save them? Shege had placed a burden on his shoulders, a burden hard to carry. A savior did something big, something that had power to change the lives of the people. A savior did something startling, a thing that happened so suddenly one night that nobody could resist its power. What had he himself done? But now he wanted an opportunity to shout what was oppressing his mind. He would tell the people, unite! That would be early next year. For a moment, he dreamed the dream. It was a momentary vision that flashed across his mind and seemed to light the dark corners of his soul. It was the vision of a people who could trust one another, who would sit side by side, singing the song of love, which harmonized with music from the birds, and all their hearts would beat to the rhythm of the throbbing river. The children would play there, jumping from rock onto rock, splashing the water, which reached fathers and mothers sitting in the shade area, talking, watching. Birds sang as they hovered from tree to tree, while farther out in the forest, beasts of the land circled around. In the midst of this, Nyambura would stand. The children would come to her, and she would talk to the elders. The birds too seemed to listen, and even the beasts stopped moving and stood still. And a song rose, stirring the hearts of all, and their longing for a new life in the future was reflected in the dark eyes of Nyambura. He stretched his hands and wanted to touch her trembling figure as she led them into this song. And then he saw that the hands of the other people, including Joshua, were stretched toward her. For a moment he stood still, fascinated by the sight, and then horror caught him. They were all pulling her into pieces, as if she were a thing of sacrifice to the god of the river, which still flowed with life as they committed this ritual outrage on her. And he too had joined the crowd, and he was tearing her to himself, and she did not cry out because she was now dumb. Then he saw it was Muthoni, and she was thrown into the river, and she was saying, I am a woman now. The river carried her with it into a darkness which no one could fathom. Waiyaki's heart cried, and he knew that she was not there. She had gone, and everybody turned away, not speaking to one another because they felt guilty. They averted their eyes from Waiyaki, the teacher, as they passed him. At last, he was left alone and did not know whether he should follow Muthoni or the crowd. Nyambura now stood in front of him, A flash of joy drove the guilt away, and he went forward to touch her. She would not let him. And Waiyaki wanted to remonstrate with her and remind her of that one time when she had allowed him to hold her in his arms. But he remembered that Nyambura had not agreed to marry him. Why did she refuse? Because she would not disobey a father? Yes, that was the word, obedience. And because she was obedient, he had lost her forever. And his yearning would go on till he died. Death was the end of everything. He was about to open his mouth and tell her that Joshua had led the crowd in tearing her to pieces. Then Waiyaki remembered that he had chosen the crowd, had acceded to the ritual demands of the tribe, and had shed her blood. Guilt weighed on him. The darkness terrified him. He wanted to scream in horror of himself. He had failed to tell people to unite. Another time, a next time, and he woke up still panting. Next time. Waiyaki shook himself out of the terror of that vision. He was sure that he had not fallen asleep. He felt his face, and it was full of sweat. He looked around the hut. It was not late, really. He was only tired, and he wanted to rest. But now he knew that he could not sleep. The image that had transfixed him to his bed was too real for him to shake himself from its effect. He wished he could have taken a more active part in the ceremonial activities of the tribe. That, at least, would have given him more comfort and made him feel still one of the people. But the journeys. Circumcision was coming soon, hardly a week away. The initiation day would coincide with Christmas Day. Was this a challenge to Joshua? Dancing and singing was in full swing, and there was a new edge to the songs. Uncircumcised girls were the objects of cutting attacks. Everything dirty and impure was heaped on them. They were the impure things of the tribe, and they would bring the wrath of the ancestral spirits on the ridges. A day would come when all these Ireo would be circumcised by force to rid the land of all impurities. Joshua and his followers took up the challenge. They sang of Christ and his saving power. They sang of a child who was born in Bethlehem, who was put in a manger and had swaddling clothes. It was no good sleeping early. He could not do it. He got out of bed and went to his mother's hut. He wanted to go out into the village and talk to the elders or other men of his rika. For the next few days, he told himself he would lose himself in the life of the ridge. If he had lost Nyambura, he had not lost his faith in service to the community. His mother had not yet gone to bed. She was now very old, and she sat near the fireplace. Waiyaki felt his conscience prick him. He had kept away from her for a long time. He thought, I'll marry soon so that she can have a companion. Then a fear suddenly gripped him. Perhaps he would never marry. Waiyaki felt as if he would fall on his aged mother and let her comfort him, as on that day when she had soothed him during his second bath. The feeling came and went. He was again calm. He did not want to stay long with his mother, and so he rose to go. Where are you going, son? She did not raise her eyes. Out, mother. She now looked at him, at his strange eyes which spoke of an inner agitation. Waiyaki. He turned round sharply, fearfully. His mother stared at him in the eyes. There was a strange tremor in her voice. Is it true that you are marrying Joshua's daughter? The rumors, spreading like fire in a plain of dry grass. This talk about marrying Nyambura annoyed him. Had she not refused him? She was obedient to her father. Waiyaki wondered what he would tell his mother. Should he tell her that he loved Nyambura? He thought of her. She had betrayed him. If only she had agreed. If only he had a hope. Then maybe he would be in a position to face any challenge. He would have known what to say when a person confronted him with a question like this, and he hated her. She had taken the path of duty. He too would take the path of duty and stick to the tribe. His father had warned him of contaminating the tribe with the white man's ways. had warned him not to betray the tribe, would an association with Nyambura not be a betrayal? He would not stand by her, he would not take her part, and he would not trouble his mother with an explanation. So Waiyaki only said one word, no. And immediately he hated himself. Surely he ought to tell her all. He ought to tell his mother of his secret yearning, of his strong love for Nyambura. She was a mother. She surely could know of a cure. But when he opened his mouth, the words refused to form. Only a light shone in his eyes. His mother went on in her weak voice. You know what this would mean. You must not do it. Fear the voice of the Kama. It is the voice of the people. When the breath of the people turns against you, it is the greatest curse you can ever get. Waiyaki now knew that it would be futile for him to explain. She would not understand. In her eyes, such a relationship with a girl who was not circumcised would be a betrayal. There was a knock at the door. Kamau entered. Is it well with you all? It is well, Waiyaki answered, glad of the interruption. The elders and the Kama want to see you. Waiyaki had not been invited to appear before the Kama since his resignation. He looked at his mother, whose eyes seemed imploring and plainly saying, don't go. For a moment, Waiyaki thought she was not well. He felt it his duty to be with her, but he now welcomed this chance to talk to the Kama and come to an understanding with them. If the mission thrust on to him by his father was going to succeed, he had to secure the cooperation of everyone. But he said, I think mother is ill. It is important that you be there. Were it not so, I would not have come at this hour. You'll only be away for a short time. All right, he said, avoiding the eyes of his mother, and the two stepped out into the dark night. End of chapter 22.